While most Australian cities began as convict colonies, Adelaide was different, founded by free settlers with a bold vision. This is the story of how Adelaide became Australia's most carefully planned city, from its indigenous roots to its modern reputation for culture and wine. Welcome to the complete history of Adelaide. Whispers of Tarntania, the vanished heart of the plains. Long before the first European footsteps disturbed its red earth, the land we now call Adelaide pulsed with the spirit of the Kaurna people, guardians of Tarntania, the place of the red kangaroo rock. For countless generations they shaped the sweeping plains, coaxed life from the river torrents, known to them as Karawira Perry, and walked beneath the gum-lined foothills of the empty lofty ranges, following the rhythm of the land. Their world was rich with wisdom, semi-nomadic clans building layered hut settlements, spiritual guides who stood apart, and an oral tradition that wove the past into every tree and stone. But with the arrival of Europeans, that ancient world unraveled in a matter of decades. The red kangaroo rock, once a symbol of power, was destroyed. The Kaurna language fell silent, its last fluent voice fading in 1929. Yet, the memory endured, buried in missionaries' records and whispered through generations, until a modern revival stirred the spirit of Tarntania once more. Today, as Kaurna names rise again on street signs and city squares, the soul of Adelaide begins to remember its first storytellers. Dreams and Dust, the birth of Adelaide. In a bold experiment carved from idealism and grit, Adelaide was born not in chains but in dreams, a city unlike any other in Australia. Conceived by Edward Gibbon Wakefield, whose prison-bound imagination envisioned a utopia of liberty and labor, the South Australia Act of 1834 gave rise to a colony built by free hands, not convict toil. When the first settlers arrived in 1836, they gathered near a grand old gum tree, where Governor Hindmarsh proclaimed a new beginning, one steeped in promise and radical reform. Colonel William Light, with poetic precision, laid out the city as a harmony of topography and aspiration, naming it for Queen Adelaide, but shaping it in his own image. Yet utopia faltered early. Without provision for crime in Light's noble plan, violence crept into the cracks. A murder, a burglary, and a hanging followed swiftly. In desperation, the fledgling society formed its own police force under a mere 21-year-old. As political tensions flared and economic hopes wavered, the settlers turned to the land. Wool and wheat emerged as lifelines, stretching Adelaide's influence from the lush southern coast to the sunlit valleys of Clare. Adelaide's 19th-century tale is one of idealism clashing with reality, a vision tested by blood, hardship, and soil but never extinguished. From collapse to confidence, Adelaide's battle for survival. As the dreams of Adelaide's birth began to solidify into bricks and bridges, Governor George Gawler arrived in 1838 with a vision too bold for his mandate. Defying British orders, he breathed life into the struggling colony with a flurry of construction. A stately governor's house, a prison to tame lawlessness, a hospital, barracks, customs house, and the critical wharf at Port Adelaide. Yet, his ambition outpaced budget, and he was swiftly replaced in 1841 by George Grey, a man of austerity. Grey's blade of cuts met fierce resistance, but fortune turned the colony's fate. Silver shimmered in Glen Osmond, fields ripened with grain, and mines blossomed across the landscape, transforming the struggling town into a hub of trade. By the 1850s, paddle steamers surged along the Murray River, linking Adelaide to the wider world, and by 1857, the city was a proud self-governing colony with secret ballots and its own parliament. Infrastructure bloomed: reservoirs, gaslit streets, a university, and cultural institutions. But prosperity was fragile. The 1890s depression swept across Australia, silencing once bustling banks and shrinking dreams. In Adelaide, drought and hardship followed. Yet while Sydney and Melbourne staggered, Adelaide endured. Its copper shone, its wine flowed, and its resilience wrote a quiet, stubborn legacy of survival in the heart of South Australia. The rise, ruin, and revival of a city, Adelaide in the 20th century. As the 20th century dawned, Adelaide stood proud, a radiant jewel of urban planning, its wide boulevards now aglow with electric light and humming with trams by 1909. The young city sent 28,000 of its sons to the battlefields of World War I, and though grief shadowed its streets, hope returned with the post-war boom. Prosperity swept through like a fresh breeze, lifting Adelaide to rank as Australia's third-largest city. But the droughts returned and the Great Depression clawed away at progress. Still, Adelaide endured, its leaders pivoting to industry, transforming wartime factories into engines of peacetime progress. The Playford government championed the city as a manufacturing stronghold, enticing giants like Holden and Chrysler to build a motor city in the heart of South Australia. Suburbs like Elizabeth rose from red earth, while water from the River Murray flowed through the new Mannum-Adelaide pipeline, and jets soared from the new airport at West Beach. Yet as Brisbane overtook it in size, Adelaide responded not with envy, but with soul. The 1970s brought a bold cultural awakening. Premier Don Dunstan's government lit a fire of reform, decriminalizing homosexuality, supporting the arts and giving voice to progress. Adelaide blossomed into a city of festivals, freedom and fearless ideals. But shadows returned in the 1990s with the catastrophic collapse of the state bank, shaking public trust and halting growth. Recovery came slowly, a long climb back to financial stability that wasn't complete until 2004. By 2020, a new skyline rose to reflect a reborn spirit, crowned by the Adelaidean, the tallest testament yet to a city that has risen, fallen, and risen again with quiet dignity and relentless resolve. Adelaide ascending, a new century, a new identity. As the 21st century dawned, Adelaide stood at a crossroads, haunted by decades of economic stagnation, yet brimming with untapped potential. With a visionary gleam, the Rand government set the city on a path of bold transformation. Billions poured into its veins. The iconic Adelaide Oval was reborn as a modern cathedral of sport in the city's heart, while a towering new Royal Adelaide Hospital rose near the railway station, a beacon of healthcare innovation. Trams once again danced down city streets, extended from Glenelg through the urban grid to East Terrace and Hindmarsh, while trains pushed further south to Seaford, reconnecting communities with speed and style. After years of slumber, Adelaide stirred awake, its skyline reshaped, its soul rekindled. The Grand Adelaide Convention Centre expanded along the river, while relics of the past found new purpose. The Torrens building buzzed with global academia, the old stock exchange echoed with scientific dialogue, and the long-silent Glenside Hospital pulsed with the magic of cinema. A $2 billion desalination plant, powered by renewable energy, stood as a silent sentinel against drought, ensuring the city would never thirst again. Meanwhile, the heartbeat of Adelaide grew louder each year through the explosion of the Adelaide Festival, Fringe and WWII Adelaide, festivals that transformed the city into a kaleidoscope of music, art and unrestrained joy. In this era of bold reinvention, Adelaide shed its quiet image and embraced a thrilling new identity, resilient, vibrant and utterly alive. From Colonel Light's pencil sketches to today's festival-filled streets, Adelaide proves that good planning creates great cities. If you enjoyed this journey through Australia's cultural capital, hit like, subscribe and tell us, what makes Adelaide special to you? Thanks for watching History Love.